Electricast. Kaylee Cuoco and Sam Claflin star in the MGM Plus original series, Vanished. When the man Alice loves disappears on a train to the south of France, every romantic memory becomes evidence. Every intimate detail, a potential threat. She thought she knew everything about him, but she may not even know his real name. 4-part thriller Vanished premieres February 1st on MGM Plus. Finding the truth is a dangerous affair.
I had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire an energy vampire. But also they're a literal vampire. And suddenly my team is spending all their time sharpening wooden stakes and buying bulk silver and rehearsing ancient chants, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant takes insights from over 1 billion professionals to create a short list of the best fits for you. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
Welcome to Her Extraordinary Life by Design, where we celebrate women who are shaping their lives one extraordinary day at a time. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, self-care coach for women who are ready to make self-care a priority to support them in life and business. Every week, I'll be speaking with inspiring women from various walks of life who will share their personal journeys and will discover how they have fearlessly carved their own paths as business owners, passionately pursuing their dreams and creating a meaningful impact on their communities. So let's get started. Hello, and welcome to Extraordinary Life by Design podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, and today I am really excited to be speaking with my next guest. Nas Echeverria is an international marketing and innovation strategist who helps established coaches, consultants, and B2B brands stop competing and start leading their industries. With over 20 years of experience, she's the founder of the Easy Yes Method and the creator of the Netflix Effect, a bingeable self-selling system that transforms expert methodologies into bingeable movements so they're perceived not just as better, but as inevitable. Her work has helped leaders land on TEDx stages, bestseller lists, and cement themselves as the only choice in their market while shortening sales cycles, attracting and retaining clients, and developing lean growth strategies that sustain and scale. Nas, I am so excited to be able to welcome you to the show today. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I am thrilled to be here.
Yeah, well, first of all, I have to say that what I love is that I found you on Facebook. I was looking. I know I was looking. Like I literally was looking for that magic pill. I'll be honest. I'm going to say that right now, just so our audience knows. I'm going to be transparent. I was looking for the magic pill because I was trying to get my messaging out there. But I thought, actually, I didn't even think it was getting my messaging out there. I thought I was just trying to attract the right ideal client. Come to find out that it's really a lot about the messaging. It's not necessarily obviously the other pieces are important, like how you position yourself in the marketplace, like who you are, what you're solving. But the message, it wasn't there because I wasn't really saying the things that I needed to say. So I love the fact that I found you because it was like finding you really helped me to dial in what I was doing when you first did that audit for me and you took time to go through and say, well, I can see that I don't see that you're doing any of certain things that could really help you. I see what you're doing, but I don't see like there's some missing pieces to the puzzle. So I just wanted to share that part because
I love that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I know I've been that person I was going through thinking, well, I'm saying all the right things. I'm doing all the things, but really, there was just so much that I felt like it was all jumbled. And so you helped me through that. So I'm really excited to talk to you today about what you do because it's exciting. I want to share you with the audience. I definitely think that you're so needed. And I'm so grateful that I found you. So yeah, thank you so much
my
for
heart.
doing.
First of all, that just is like, when you realize that's everything you've been wanting to do in your life. And I've been doing this for decades now, but it's just always amazing to see how the transformations impact our lives in other areas. So just thank you for sharing that with me. You have no idea how much it means.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm happy to share that. So I want to talk about you. First of all, you built an incredible internationally recognized business. You've helped experts land on TEDx stages, which is incredible, helped them to get into the bestsellers list. And I know that comes from the messaging too, right? And you've
Right.
created your signature systems. You've got the easy yes method. You've got the Netflix effect, which I love. I've watched that series a few times. But before we get into all of that, what called you to this work in the first place, and what moments shaped how you now help your clients position their expertise and grow in a way that actually feels aligned and sustainable?
Yeah, I love this question because it kind of happened in a roundabout way where 14 years ago I had my first little human, and I was sitting in an office working in marketing, traveling globally, like having had been in that business, and crying myself through the day essentially because I had a 2-month-old baby that I left at home, and just feeling this complete lack of fulfillment in like this career that I had worked so hard at 27 to build, that was so successful, like so many opportunities, and realizing in that moment that everything changed when I had my first child, and that like all the things that felt important up until then just weren't. And between that and the realization that like you wake up one day and you realize I want to do something that's actually feels like I'm changing the world. Like we all kind of, I think some people it takes longer to get there. Some people know that like way in advance. I knew that was from a young age, but I couldn't figure out what I could do. I joke that I wanted to be a nurse, but I couldn't stand the sight of blood. I would fast because to me, that was an opportunity to like literally change lives. And I just realized that, when all of that kind of happened, I realized I didn't want to just market businesses. I didn't want to just learn to do those simple things. It was that I had watched for decades in my previous work people and companies who did incredible things who became relatively unknown, who were kind of struggling to get by and wondering what the heck is going on, and realizing the power of innovation, understanding the importance of truly being able to create something that isn't just the undercover bestseller, right? The thing that's great behind the scenes but not many people know about. I wanted a way to actually be able to help people be known for the things they do, be seen, be acknowledged, be recognized, be able to create movements of what they're doing. So I kind of was like, okay, here's what I'm good at. How can I translate this into an opportunity to bring that to life? So that's kind of like the long story short process of what I realized that brought me to where I am today.
Yeah, I love that. I thought there was that need, right? And you found like you were doing something really incredible, helping people already in the industry that you'd been in for so long, and doing, around with the companies that you worked with, the businesses that you worked with. But knowing that there was also this huge need out there in the marketplace for even just entrepreneurs trying to build a business and trying to figure out like all the ins and outs of marketing, of messaging, of branding, of actually standing out as I think you call it like the undeniable one, something like that. I know I'm butchering it, but
Oh,
I
not
know
at all. You're good.
you know,
You're good.
it's like you have that idea, which I love. It always stuck with me, is like you're being like that one person that is the one that stands out in the marketplace as the one for your ideal client is the only one, the only person that they want to listen to. That kind of, for me, has become you.
Yeah.
So you mean you've positioned yourself that way, right? And
Yeah.
so I love the fact that you saw that need, you figured out how to really start to bring that, which is really where I want to like segue into it, because I want you to talk a little bit about that. You've got this methodology. Well, you turned your expertise into what you call a bingeable brand, a bingeable system, and it's
Yep.
called the Netflix effect. Which, when I first heard of it, I was like, "Whoa!" I can say from personal experience, yeah, of working with you. Again, I feel like you're the real deal. You're really good at this, at what you do. And as I said, I can say from firsthand from working with you directly that what you do is what's missing in the marketplace right now. So with that being said, can you tell us a little bit more about the Netflix effect, the idea behind that,
Yeah.
and why? Like, because I know there's a reason, there's a why behind that.
Yeah. So kind of I have to take a step back to give you the reason why I came to that. Like one of the scariest things I think for business owners, for entrepreneurs, for people who are looking to create success, even if it's in a career that they have, is being able to sit there and say, I'm willing to do something different. I think that's a very scary thought for a lot of people. And even if we have that thought, we think to ourselves, what gave me the audacity to go and change the way things are done? So that was what sparked it for me. And what I realized in general was the missing gap in that. So when we look at the Netflix effect, I say there's kind of like phases of how it came to be. Phase one was this realization of the fact that it comes from and starts with the idea that you actually want to change a system. You want to change an industry. You want to change a market. You see the need for something to be different. So that's always for me, phase one. And I realized Netflix did that so freaking well. A lot of people don't know the whole stories behind it. I recommend you guys going and taking a look. Reed Hastings was the main guy who kind of started it. But like, we don't realize the transgression of what happened with Netflix itself was this realization that there was a problem, right? That there was an issue in the way we were watching movies, right? They started out as a mail delivery system for movies. So back in my day, I remember it. You might remember it too. We would have Netflix delivering your movies to your house so that you would eliminate late fees that were happening from Blockbuster. So that was like the first phase of that. And then, but they kept seeing these bigger opportunities to the point where he realized that like streaming, your ability to be able to like stream in-house and be able to watch a movie at any given point was where the future was. And that was the gap, right? And literally went back to Blockbuster at a certain point and tried to sell them that idea. And they said no and laughed in his face. And he was like, no, I believe in this. I know that this is what's going to work, and built this crazy thing that we can't live without now. Like, it is literally the pinnacle of streaming services. So to me, when I built the Netflix effect, it was that I went through a very similar concept of realizing that it wasn't just about marketing. It wasn't just about growing our businesses. It was about actually knowing and bringing about change in a market where we needed it most. And so many people just don't even know how to create innovation. And I stumbled into the blue ocean theory, which a lot of people have read and seen. But even with that concept and idea, it's like, but how do I actually do this? How do I actually create something revolutionary that changes industries, that does something so incredible? And I realized that a lot of people were just spending decades to try and get to that point. So rather than try and figure it out over such a long period of time, which a lot of people lose steam over, and it just becomes a very difficult process, I developed my own process of how to do that. And so all that came to about that I created a process that first started with the idea and the philosophy of creating innovation in a market and truly bringing your expertise and innovation together to create that. And so we started that by building what we call innovation gap methodologies now, which is the starting point of everything. Even when I teach it on a growth level to a scaling level, I always start with methodology, because that truly is what defines your expertise, defines your corner of the market. And then from there, I was really bad at sales. Like, I just was not good at sales for a really long time. And I vividly remember being on 10 calls in a week and hearing 10 versions of no, and literally crying to my husband on the couch saying, I don't think I'm cut out for this business. Like, this is not what I wanted to do. I don't want to sell myself. I don't want to force people to work with me. And that just wasn't the way I wanted to go. And I crashed on the couch and literally binge watched an entire series, stayed up till 2 a.m. with kids that were going to be up at 6. And I was obsessed. And I thought, you know what? Why can't I get people to do this with me? Why can't I get people to binge me, fall in love with me, so that selling is almost irrelevant, is unnecessary? So by the time they get there, they actually are sold on it all on their own. So I essentially reverse engineered the concepts of psychology that I had studied for years of like, well, what is the process we naturally go through to make a decision? Because this wasn't just about marketing or information. It was knowing and understanding decision psychology, realizing all of those, and building that into the Netflix effect. So essentially, that was a long version, but I feel like it's important to have the context around it of how the Netflix effect kind of came to life.
I love it. As I said, I love the Netflix idea because, like, you're right. First of all, Blockbuster, I remember going there, and I remember my husband going there many times and coming home with the same movie. It was like he'd forgotten that we'd watched it already. But what I love about the idea of Netflix, of streaming services, is that you're able to watch it when you want to. You're able to maybe watch half of it today, watch the rest tomorrow. That's kind of like what I liked about Netflix is just being able to bring, like you were saying, bring it into your home, binge watching if you wanted to, a series to get caught up. And then, going from there, if it was like a weekly thing, show being added later. But I love the idea of what you were saying, like, how can I get people to fall in love with me through a system similar to what Netflix saw the gap in the market, which I thought was really cool. And one of the things I think that drew me to you, because I really felt like, okay, this makes sense. It is about the messaging. And you're right. Like, I think they did. They really stumbled onto something incredible. The idea of the message is you can, like you were saying, you can watch this at your leisure, but you can watch like a whole series like in one sitting if you wanted to. And I love that idea. So with that being said, one of the things I wanted to ask you was, what is the biggest shift someone would need to make to move from being the best kept secret to the only choice? Especially because you talk about, you have like with this idea of how can I get them to fall in love with me? How does someone do that?
Great question. So I would say there's two key pieces to that. The first one being, well, why should they? Why should they fall in love with you? And I mean, that sounds like a really simple question, but it's a question that I don't think enough business owners ask themselves is why should someone fall in love with you versus the thousands of other people out there that are the opportunity point? And I think it's knowing and acknowledging and coming to face with that question that brings out the, well, I don't know. And it brings out like all these questions, these thoughts of like, well, it's my personality. Well, I really care about people, all these things that are duplicatable. So I think when we realize what do we need to do to get people to fall in love with us, get them to sell themselves on us, it starts with first being able to say, but why us? Why should they pay attention to me? So when we look at methodology, that's what we're doing. We're not looking at it of like, hey, I just put together a random string of things. We're saying, here's why us. Here's why someone should choose to work with me versus the thousands, if not millions of other options out there, and being able to clearly create a line in the sand between those two. Because if you're simply trying to market based on personality, you will lead to burnout. I'll tell you this right here and right now. If you try to build a personal brand that's just based on your personality, I've watched far too many businesses run their businesses into the ground as a result of it. Or you're just trying to do it based on features and benefits and things that are constantly going to have to evolve and someone else is going to do the same exact thing as you. Again, it's going to be a tough place to go. So starting and creating a process that gets your clients to fall in love with you to sell themselves starts first and foremost with why should I choose you in the first place? So if you sat down and literally wrote that out of why should someone choose me versus the hundreds of thousands of other options out there, you need to be able to answer that question first and foremost. It's only when you have the answer to that question and a way to communicate that in a way that actually triggers for them, okay, yeah, I get it. This is what it's missing. Just like you mentioned when you came into my world, you were like, yeah, this is what the market's missing. Like that is number one. That's why I tell people like my bingeable process, the system that I've built on the back end that does that is only as valuable as the part I did first, which is that why should someone choose me? Once you have that, and only once you have it, I like to say like, do not cross go, do not collect $200 until you've done that. Then it's about taking that and saying, okay, now that I know that, what are the things people need to understand in order for my solution to make perfect sense? For them to say, oh my gosh, where has this been all along? How have I not seen that? So the key concept behind the Netflix effect process, like when we talk about the bingeable system, is really that we're solving what I call a decision cycle. So we know that everyone goes through those questions. So it's looking at your market right now. And we have a process that's built out, our proprietary process. But in general, you could start by sitting there and saying, what are the things that people need to know before they can make decisions? Do they need to know what your offer looks like? Do they need to know why other things haven't worked? Do they need to know all those things? And it's knowing and navigating that first and foremost that creates a bingeable system. It's not just putting together and stringing together a series of videos. And you and I have had this conversation or audios. It's a matter of actually the information solving that information gap that we go through. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And as you were talking, it also brought to mind one of the things that was in the program that I went through with you about that client journey. And that was one of the most valuable exercises I've ever done, but in a way that not the typical way that a lot of people say, like your client avatar and trying to figure
Yeah.
out who they are. I absolutely loved the process that you took you take your clients through to figure out, like, there is a method for each question that you're asking, and not just from your perspective, but from your ideal client's perspective, so that you can actually dial that into, like, the why, like
Yeah.
who you're talking to. So because, you need to know who you're talking to. And one of the things you actually also alluded to and talked about was that blue ocean. Like, a lot of the time people get into that, oh, I want to get into this blue ocean and try to create something new. And I was talking about that with someone earlier today, that that's all well and fine, but if you're not established already in what you're doing, trying to move into the blue ocean market could be really tricky, because you have to convince people that this really matters. This new
Yeah.
thing, that this new concept really matters. And so, even though I think you did venture into the blue ocean, because I do feel like the Netflix effect is a blue ocean methodology, I believe it's also because you were able to take what's already working for Netflix and you just flipped it on its head for someone to use it for themselves, like for entrepreneurs, for business owners to use, to get themselves out there, to get themselves noticed, just the same way, but just from your perspective. And I really love that, which also leads me to your other best known method, which is the easy yes method, which is a system you've designed to shorten the sales cycle and call in the right clients without pressure. And through the system you've developed, you've helped many people, myself included, move from pushy sales tactics and instead create offers that feel inevitable, right, to the right people, making them the undeniable choice of their ideal clients. So what are some of the core principles behind the Easy Yes method, and why do they work so well for experts who've struggled to sell without feeling salesy?
Good question. So the EasyS method and the Netflix effect are related. So the Netflix effect is a principle I use inside of the EasyS method, just like you mentioned. Like, what I realized and what a lot of people don't understand is that innovation isn't like always having to start from scratch. It's about seeing the opportunity points and being able to solve for those. So the EasyS method is actually the principle of what does it actually take to get leads to sell themselves. So it's combining the three core philosophies that I have, which number one is being able to actually create your own category, your own space where you become the undeniable choice. Because the more someone can compare you, the more difficult a decision becomes to begin with. But it also leads us to feeling like we're having to force ourselves to market, having to try and be top of mind, because we're not really creating anything that's truly changing the way people see and do whatever it is your industry is. So to me, that the three core philosophies start with, again, what is your innovation and how do we speak to that innovation? That's that innovation gap methodology. Second step is, how do we create a bingeable decision process? So how do we mirror how people are naturally making decisions in everyday world? And I use this example all the time, that whether we're deciding what to make for dinner tonight or whether to invest in somebody's program, our brain goes through the same exact cycle. It's not any different. The only difference is when it comes to making what to make for dinner tonight, our brain can easily find that information, process that information, and say, okay, I know I'm going to make chicken and rice tonight. Versus when deciding on whether or not to invest in your program, my brain doesn't have that right information or in the right order. So it creates more friction in the process. So when we mirror a natural decision process, it creates bingeability, it creates easy decisions, it creates an easy yes for your audience. And then third and last, which I feel like is so overlooked in especially online businesses, is actually delivering results. Like, I am all here for, like, trust me, I have been in marketing and sales for 23 plus years, but it does not matter what you do and how great you market if at the end of the day you bring clients in and you're not actually delivering on the results you promised. So I call this the happy client machine, because the reality of it is right now you are the success, right? You are the magic of what you're doing, and long term that's not possible to scale. It's not possible for you to do that without burnout. So creating a systematic approach that allows people to go through your methodology, experience the magic of what you do without being so dependent upon you, so that they become your best sales team. Like, I can't say enough that I have the best clients in the world who come in, they work with me, and then they go tell 10 friends about what we do, because they've created results, they've gotten what they wanted out of it. And that is truly what creates sustainability and scalability, is that you're not just excellent at marketing and sales. You're actually good at delivering results, and your clients feel that and experience that and want to share that with the world. So those are the philosophies behind the Easy Yes method of like what it actually takes. I call it like the art and the science of getting people to want to say yes without like friction and without feeling like it's a bad idea. It's no hesitation. Those are kind of the core philosophies that play a role in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think too that knowing again your client, right? Like that's why I love the client journey exercise because it really, in order for me to be able to create a bingeable decision process, I have to really know what they're thinking, what they're doing, like what makes them tick. Is it that they want? Not what I think they want or what I think they need, but what do they really want? What are they asking? And getting out there, one of the things that I really loved about working with you is that you taught me like how, and I picked up on it in one of the calls, and I actually said, "Hey, wait a second. I need you to explain this a little bit more." But when you were talking about your process of how you were, behind the scenes, the creation of your content, and realizing that it has to start with checking the market. What are they saying? How are they feeling? I loved that. It was something that I thought about it, but it never really landed for me until we were on that call and you were like, okay, and this is what I do and da da da. And we were moving on. It was like, wait, hold on a second. I need a little bit more. Yeah, I was just, wow, this was just so cool and incredible for me. So
Ah,
love it. Yeah. One of the things I love about the way you teach is that it's clearly rooted in your lived experience. It's not just strategy. It's not just about you. I really love that about you. Really do care about each and every person that comes into your into your realm, whether they're on a growth strategy call with you and whether they work with you or not. It's you feel like you're being truly seen and heard. So I want to ask you just personally for you, can you share a moment when you've realized you were operating from pressure or proving, and what shifted when you began living from alignment instead?
ooh, good question. So from pressure and all of that, that was that story when I mentioned that I sat down after 10 calls and had heard no. I realized that I was trying to force myself into a box. I had watched all these people. I vividly remember watching this woman who still is running a business today, but her talk about a $500,000 sales year. And I sat there and was like, that's impossible. And so what I tried to do was mimic what she was doing. And so there was this immense pressure to be less like me and more like everybody else, which looking back on it sounds so crazy. But there was this immense pressure to be like everyone else and operate from a place of what has worked for everyone else. And I kept trying and kept pushing and kept doing all the things that I quote unquote thought for sure would be the answer, only to feel like I was being pushed further and further away from what I believed in. And it was like this huge, massive moment where I remember I was like organizing our pantry. It was like 2019 sitting there. And like I literally looked around and was like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I don't even like my business. I don't like what I'm doing. And like, why do I keep trying to do all the things that I feel like I need to do it in the right way? And realizing that like everything I knew about psychology, everything I understood about people and connection and relationships and what happens in decision making, like that was the power. And it was a very scary moment for me to be able to sit there and say, am I really willing to sit here and do something that feels like my true alignment and what I was put on this earth to do, that looks nothing like what anyone else is doing? Like, am I really willing to do that? Because that sounds insane, especially when you have 3 kids and you're sitting on the floor organizing your pantry. But I kind of came to come to Jesus moment, quote unquote, of like, if I was going to do this, I was going to do it my way, and I was going to, fulfill the things that I felt like were my purpose and my reason, and getting out of a place of pressure and saying, I'm going to remove all these constraints of, oh my gosh, other people are making $500,000 a year in their first year. Or other people are doing all of these things, all these like mental constraints that I had created, and said, I'm just going to trust that I am creating something that's going to be different, that's going to innovate. It's not going to look like everybody else, but it's going to feel really freaking good. And that's what drove me for the next 7 years of just like, I'm unwilling to navigate away from what I'm doing, because I knew and understood with such conviction what I was meant to do. And like that was what drove me day in and day out of like, I'm operating from a place of alignment. I'm not willing to just do things for the sake of doing them. And like you mentioned, like I happily get on calls with people and tell them they shouldn't work with me. Like I have no problem with that because that to me is alignment. Like I am more than happy to say to someone, you should wait, go do something else right now. Here's my thought process because I'm operating from a space of I believe what I'm doing is life-changing and world-changing, and I'm not willing to navigate away from that.
Yeah, I love that. That is really something that I love about what you do because it is, I feel you do operate in integrity. And I think that's really super important. Just because someone has the money to pay you doesn't necessarily mean that they're ready for transformation, at least in the essence of how the process works, because sometimes people need something else first and they're just trying to rush to the finish line. So I love that you said that. I have a final question for you.
Yes.
You, you always say marketing is about showing people what's possible with you, not convincing them you're the solution. That's really what I'm getting. Okay. And this is what as I've gotten to know you over the last several months. So, what's a question you'd love every high achieving woman to ask herself before she puts her next message, her program, or her offer into the world? And why does that question matter more than the algorithm, the platform, or the perfect funnel?
Oof, that is a good question. I would say the question that you need to ask yourself is why is this person ready right now? Why is this person at that precipice of change? A lot of times when we move into marketing and messaging that feels like it's convincing, that feels like it's pressuring, it's coming from a place of I'm trying to I'm trying to push to meet some need, right? Like I want clients, so I'm going to do all the things that I need to do rather than like who is this person that truly genuinely needs my services and is already on that precipice of change that I don't have to convince that they should create change. So a really fast example for you to think about is instead of telling someone, here's 5 reasons why you should start a gym workout, which is convincing language, is focused on someone who's not on the precipice of change. Instead, you'd be asking yourself, here are 5 things that are going to make your gym workouts better. So it's just the shift in the ideology of what you're looking at and not really focusing on people who don't know they want change or aren't looking to create change. Who is the person who wants change, who is fighting tooth and nail to make that happen right now? That is the question you should be asking yourself. And that's why that trumps everything else we do beyond funnels, beyond all of those. Those are just mechanisms we utilize. And ask yourself that who is that person and why am I the answer? If it's kind of two questions, but I think that they work hand in hand.
Yeah, I love that. It's so true. I just totally relate with that. At least now that I've really learned that, because like I said, it's been an incredible year for me to to really go from like this one idea and thinking that I had all the answers and then realizing it wasn't that I didn't have the right message. It was that I was just kind of waiting in a sea of everybody else and not real and kind of like being all over the map because, we talked about dialing some of my messaging back because I was, introducing too many thought processes in just like, for example, one post and,
Yeah.
taking people off. It would be like, telling them like, oh, the color is red that we're talking about. And then all of a sudden insert yellow in there. And it's like, wait a second. What's going on here? Right. So I really love that you were able to help me dial that back. Naz, I am so incredibly grateful and thankful that you joined me today. I love the work that you do. I'm so excited. I'm a huge fan, and I tell everybody that I know about you. I love that you are not just a strategist, but you're a woman who really actually does truly see people. You make them feel like that they matter, regardless of whether they're going to enroll with you in any of your programs. And I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. I'm genuinely grateful that I found you, your work, and the way that you teach and teach messaging and positioning, and has really filled the gap for me. I didn't really fully realize that I had a gap, until we started talking more and I started looking and realizing that, yeah, as I was saying, I guess because I'm like at a loss for words, really, but it's changed the way I see what I do, the way I show up, and most importantly, it's giving me language that feels like it's mine, right? And so what you bring to the table isn't just strategy, it's clarity, it's integrity, it's a deep understanding of how to help women lead and sell in a way that actually honors who they are, not just what they do. And I truly believe that that is what has been missing in the marketplace for so long. And I'm just so grateful that you saw that and you are stepping into that role. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. Way to make me teary-eyed on a in the middle of the day. But thank you. I am honored to be here, and thank you for letting me share my story and your story together on your podcast.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. And to our listeners, if you'd like to connect with Nas directly and learn more about her Easy Yes method and the Netflix effect, you can find her contact information in the show notes. Remember, when your message is aligned, your energy is protected, your systems are designed to reflect your true voice and value, and sales stop feeling like a hustle and start feeling like a natural extension of your impact. You don't need to chase or convince. You just need to be clear, consistent, and in alignment with what you truly are here to do. And that's when the right people say yes, because your clarity speaks louder than any pitch ever could. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep believing, and keep designing your extraordinary life one day at a time. Thank you for joining me on Her Extraordinary Life by Design. I hope you've been inspired and empowered by the incredible stories shared on this show. If you enjoyed this episode and the conversations we've had, I would greatly appreciate if you could take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback and support mean the world to me, and it will help others discover the podcast and join our empowering community. Remember to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Together, we can continue to learn from these amazing women, uncover their extraordinary journeys, and be motivated to create our own lives by design. Thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, stay empowered and keep shaping your extraordinary life one day at a time.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Baklaan.
And I'm Eden Alpert.
We're back with a new season of the Unapologetically Fab podcast, where we're all about living your life by your own design.
From family to business to friendships, we bring on great guests to explore living with intention and passion at any age.
So you fabbers, young and old, listen in as we redefine success and embrace life without apologies.
Please join us on Unapologetically Fab, an Electricast production.
See you there.
Electricast.
Ever thought about starting your own podcast?
Do you have a business or a message you want to share with the world?
Well, now it's easier than ever with Electricast. Hi, I'm Mark Netter.
And I'm Peter Rafelson. We're the founders of Electricast Media.
Whether you want to start a new podcast or already have one, join Electricast to grow your audience, monetize your content, and build your community.
With our simple sign-up, you get free promotion, world-class analytics, premium ads, and personal support.
Go to electricast.com and join our community today.
Electricast. Transform your influence.
Electricast. Electricast.